Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is going to be another interview continuing my series, my summer series on bringing you really dynamic Catholics who love their faith and love to be able to share that good news with others. And a couple of years ago I became aware of Christine Henderson, and I'm so excited that she is joining us today to tell about her ministry. And welcome, Christine. It's so good for you to be here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I was drawn to you because I've always loved children. And I saw you on Instagram, and I noticed your title, Faith and Puppets. So I clicked on and I found that you had really created this ministry specifically to engage children and teach children our faith in a very new and vibrant way. So can you tell us a little bit about how Faith and Puppets began?
Well, it's an interesting story. Pre-COVID, I was doing storytelling in dementia, with dementia residents in senior homes, and I do interactive storytelling with them. Well, once COVID hit, of course, all of that stopped. And I was going, okay, God, what do you want me to do now? And I was praying novenas to the Infant of Prague. And at my parish, we have a beautiful statue of the Infant of Prague that you can actually see a picture on my website of him. And one day while praying in front of the statue, I felt an inner voice or urging. I can't really describe the words, but it said, do something to teach my faith with your storytelling skills and with puppets. And so that was the beginning of Faith and Puppets, and I started praying about it, and I started with the Baltimore Catechism for First Communion and went through all the questions and answers with the discussion with my friend Billy, and I pretended he was getting ready for his First Communion, and we went through every question. And then she told a saint story or a Bible story about something that had to do with it. And so it began with that. And after I finished that, I went and did the 10 Commandments, and I started recording more and more saint stories. And then just this spring, I started a subscription program for $10 a month, and I do a different virtue each month and saint videos that have to do with the virtue and activities. And so I've tried to make it a lot of fun for kids, a way for parents can teach the faith without really having to do the research themselves. And if a mom needs a 10-minute break to enjoy her cup of coffee or to unload the dishwasher without little helpers, like me? Yeah, like you, Billy. And then they can.
I love that because, you know, I love the saints. I'm always inspired by the saints. It's a big part of my faith life. And I had just recently watched your video about Saint Ida. Billy.
You saw me in it,
right?
Huh?
I just loved that video because it really, I had never heard. And of course, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of saints. But that was such a new story. And I was just intrigued by the miracles that happened, her intercession. And I just love that. So I think as well, I think parents are going to be also sitting there glued to watching these videos as well.
And I try to do some saints that are not as common. I do some of the regular Saint Anthony type saints, but I also try to find the ones that most people don't know, but are really dynamic role models for ourselves and our children.
Right.
And I feel like if the kids can learn to love the saints at an early age, then that puts them on the right path for life.
I love that, because that is your heading on your website. Put your children on the right path to sainthood. And that is the message. So now can you, because I just love Billy. I fell in love with him. That I just would like to know a little bit behind about the birth of Billy.
Well, Billy was one of my puppets that I created for working with the dementia residents. When I worked with them pre-COVID, I had a whole suitcase full of puppets that I brought in with me, and the residents would put them on their hands, and there was an amazing change that would happen with the dementia residents as soon as they put a puppet on their hands. They became animated and talkative. And so that was a big part of my work with the dementia residents. So when I started doing this, I just kind of looked up at my puppets, and Billy was there, and I like, oh, I'll work with Billy. Well, then it just, a dynamic grew between him and I, and now he's just an essential part.
Yes.
I recently, in the videos that will be released in, I think it's August, I introduced Abigail.
Hi,
Hi, Abigail. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I can't wait to be in the videos too.
And so I brought another character in.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you. How wonderful. And to me, I don't know, is puppetry in the way of storytelling as you're doing it, is that kind of a lost art? Or
You see them with, so I know some storytellers that do it, but that's more in a library type setting or with really younger kids. But I think puppets draw people out no matter their age.
Yes.
And so I brought Billy in, and I try to interact with Billy, especially with my more recent videos. I'm having Billy there during the saint story for most of them. My earlier videos, Billy sits down. I talk with my hands, obviously. And so I have him a lot of times sitting down, and I can have both hands free while telling the saint story. But recently, I brought him back in my more current videos, and he's interacting and looking at me and scratching his head and asking questions.
beautiful. You really are very, very talented at working, telling your stories, and then having him interact as well. So I just love that. And, you know, when you mentioned about also going to schools and libraries, and a couple of other characters that you reenact, Nancy Hart, who was a Revolutionary War patriot, and Elizabeth Van Loo, a spy for the Union Army during the Civil War. So hopefully, as we are coming out of the pandemic, you would be able to go again into these different venues.
In March, the senior homes started to open up in my area, so I am back with my seniors again. But I really have a passion with Faith and Puppets that I want to keep it going, and I really want to grow this, because I feel like there's a lot of cartoons, there's a lot of animation with teaching the kids, but I think there's something about them learning from a real person and interacting with a puppet. Like, we grew up with Mr. Rogers, and somebody drew an analogy of me to Mr. Rogers. And I really like that. And I would love to be able to, as I grow, do more stuff. And
wonderful. It's a wonderful compliment too, because I really feel that this is your gift. Obviously, we're not all gifted with being storytellers. I'm not a very good storyteller. And I admire people such as yourself who really can bring those stories to life. And that's what it is. And that's what I see when I watch your videos. You have brought them to life by your facial expressions, by your just dynamic way that you express what you're talking about. And I read that you do have a background in theater, a little drama. You have
I did in high school.
And you were a Catholic school teacher.
Yes, I taught Catholic school. I taught second grade and loved it. And then I was a stay-at-home mom with my kids growing up. And now my youngest is 15 and he will be starting high school this fall. We did homeschool. And then for high school, we gave our children a choice. And he's my youngest and he has said he wanted to attend high school. So I now have.
You are amazing to do that. It's not easy. It's certainly not easy to take up. And obviously you had the background of being a teacher, but as children grow and things change in the world and curriculum changes, to be able just to keep current with that. But what better place to instill the faith? And I think that is obviously missing if we want our children to have that great foundation in our Catholic faith. It's up to us.
Yeah, and I'm trying. My videos are meant for any Catholic family, but I struggled with pricing a lot because I decided on trying to keep my prices lower than maybe some other bigger companies would do, because I'm wanting all Catholic families, a lot of them are one income or they're homeschooling and the budgets are tight. So that's why I've tried to keep my prices within a point that most families could afford them.
Wonderful. And it is very, very affordable. Your monthly subscription, as you mentioned before, is $10 a month. And with that, a new video releases on the 15th of the month.
On the 15th of the month, I release a new virtue video. Then there's 3 saint videos that talk about how that saint had that virtue and tell that saint's story. And there's activities for each of the saint and the virtue that families can do. Plus they have access to all previous months' videos.
Wonderful, beautiful. There's a Learn the 10 Commandments video, First Communion preparation video. And also we want to say that this makes a great gift to give a membership to Faith and Puppets. That would make a wonderful gift for a parent to be able to expand the teaching of our Catholic faith.
And it's also a good gift for godparents or grandparents.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's true. That we play that integral role and part of encouraging and teaching the faith too. So there's a few questions, Christine, that I want to ask you today. And I'm just wondering, what is your favorite devotion?
Well, that's an easy one, the Rosary. From our time when our kids were young, we tried every night to pray the Rosary as a family. And I think it's brought a lot of blessings to us. And even as the kids get older and move on out, we still try to say the Rosary every night.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, this may be a very difficult question to narrow it down to your go-to saint.
Well, I'd say it's not a saint, it's the infant of Prague, because that's what inspired this business. And when I was working with just dementia and in schools, I was praying to him. He's been kind of the patron of my business. As for a favorite saint, that is, with researching new saints all the time, I can't pick a favorite because it changes constantly. And I really, I do pray a lot to Saint Anthony because I lose things all the time. And I also pray to Saint Maximilian Kolbe a lot because he was good with technology, and I struggle with technology all the time. So I'm going, help me.
I know how you feel. I agree with that, definitely. And that's the neat thing about children learning about the saints, because they can be our helpers too. Each saint has a special mission to teach us. So we have to ask our children, let's take a look at the saints and see, maybe they have a certain interest in something, and a saint is the patron saint of. And that makes a connection with them. Now, of course, living through the pandemic as we have over the past year, I wanted to ask you, how has the pandemic changed your outlook on life?
I'd say I'm not taking things for granted as much. For example, this summer I'm going to get to see my parents for the first time in 2 years. They live in California, I live in Kansas, and we usually only get to see each other once a year. And we had planned last summer to see them, and then COVID hit. And so also just getting together with friends, or just the everyday things, I'm trying not to take for granted anymore. When hearing where I live in Kansas, the requirements for masks has definitely decreased. And I'm really enjoying seeing people smile in the store and having that more facial interaction.
Yes.
And that's been a huge thing for me, is especially as a storyteller, everything is involved with your face. And when I lose half my face, that I feel like I'm losing a connection.
Yes. And I can tell, I mean, your smile and your expression says so much. And I think that's definitely true looking at other people. I mean, we kind of became used to having a mask on and having that hidden about ourselves. But it's nice to see each other's smile. It can change the day. It just can change the mood. If you give a smile to someone and bring that hope and that joy. And also, the last question I have for you is, who was or is your greatest faith influence in your Catholic faith?
That's a hard one. I'd say probably it's my mother-in-law, who died when my oldest was about 4 months old. At that time, I was an extremely liberal Catholic, and she and I, when my husband and I were dating in our first couple of years of marriage, she constantly was challenging me on stuff, and I just was like determined on my liberal views. And it was after her death that slowly I really came to know the faith and embrace it and love it. And I really think it's to her intercession in heaven that has brought me to my faith.
Beautiful, beautiful. Because you're right. Those people in my life, it was my grandmother in my young years, because she was so instrumental. And I remember a lot of visual things that were so important to her. Her devotion, her rosary, seeing her fall asleep with it in her hand, and her statue of our Blessed Mother, which I I have today. And so these things that, of course, my parents were very critical in my foundation early years. So, but that is beautiful. And you're doing that for all of the lives that you touch each and every day through your ministries, Christine. And so I want to just say that thank you so much for joining us. I will have the link to all of your platforms in the description box below. And Billy, it was so nice to meet you today. Thank you so much for coming.
It was so nice to meet you too.
God bless. And keep on learning about those saints. I can't wait to see your next video because I want to learn right along with you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate this.
You're
Have
welcome.
have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. You too. You too. And friends, as I mentioned, I will have everything listed below about Christine Henderson and her beautiful, beautiful ministry. So please check that out and support wonderful Catholics who are really keeping our faith alive and instilling them in people of all ages, and especially the young, which I think is so important, that gift of evangelization. So God bless, and until we meet again, peace and love.